Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to continue to take a look at the scenario where Rome and the Dutch Empire ally after World War III. So in the last episode, which was also the first one, I explained a bunch of stuff and stuff happened like Carthage doesn't exist anymore, the Green Team joined the parallelograms, Russia survived even though they're pretty weak, and yeah, that's what happened. You've also got fascist Korea. Now we're going to actually talk about Russia first, because they're getting pretty weak and pretty unstable. They now have to sell the purple team, the occupation zone they have in the old empire. And yeah, with this they managed to survive even though it's a pretty bad situation. They cannot invade countries. Like they still have to recover after, since they got pretty badly affected in World War III. The Dutch have something to do with that. Yeah. Now we're going to talk about, this can be called Anatolia, this can be called Crete. I guess I'll call them Crete. But yeah, they're launching an invasion. They're having their fascist arc. What's going to happen is that this country gets defeated. The peace treaty get fully annexed. And then, as always, we note that when the Cretans launched the offensive into this slime country, we see Greece joining in to save democracy. And we do see actually here that the Dutch is going to support Greece in doing this. Also the Romans are, because they hate fascism and they're democratic. So yeah, Greece with foreign aid is definitely going to win this. And even though the Cretans still make some advances, they have to go here to save themselves, and this leads to the line team pushing back. Yeah, then the Greeks capture these islands, and then they march into the capital. And after this, Crete is going to surrender to at least survive. The fascist regime is gone though. Let's take a look at the peace treaty. This is the peace treaty, and we see that the Cretans got punished really bad for turning fascist. Like, they lost land to everyone, and they're in a pretty weak country. Well, Greece is showing that democracy can still survive. Gold Ethiopia isn't happy about this because they thought they could so have a useful ally here. Meanwhile, Gold Ethiopia is just going to annex another country, just because why not? Well, yeah, we're going to see that China, which has probably also all of this island. And yeah, this is what is happening. But we actually see the Philippines deciding to stay with China to not get invaded by Korea, since the rampage has led them to invade sea from Siberia to connect their lands. Sea from Siberia is going to survive this, but they're very weak, and they're very lucky that Russia cannot invade them, otherwise they will be already defeated. And yeah, now let's take a look. Over here we see some fascist country joining the parallelograms. And yeah, we saw Brazil turning fascist last episode. Yeah, their stuff happened. Like now Carolina is going to it's not going to leave the squares, because fascism is a bit more important. They have stuff to do. Now we see Red Australia turning fascist and started to buff themselves up to defeat the Yellow Australians. But they know like that currently they have to buff their military. They do, and then they start the invasion. But then Blue Australia, which in this timeline doesn't get communist government. Yeah, Blue Australia is joining again to grab some land and then they lead a coalition against the Red Australians and they invade them, giving Yellow Australia their land back finally. And now this leads to Red Australia retreating most of their troops from the Yellow to defeat the Blues. Yeah, this is basically the Great Australian War. Yeah, we'll see how Red Australians are actually going to do a pretty successful offensive. But then the Yellow Australians are coming and whoa, they actually know how to war. And yeah, we can see that at this point most people don't trust the Red Australian leader anymore. Some of the army rebels and leaves this part of Yellow Australia and it gets captured. See actually that yeah, this war has been a massive defeat for the Red Australia. They continue to lose and they're actually thinking about surrendering. And they do. The fascist government might not survive though. So we see this is the peace treaty. So the Blue Australians might have done some land exchange with the Yellow Australians, so we could see that left of the right is very weak and the fascist government is not trusted that much. And yeah, seeing the failure of fascism, once again leadership is going to be like, we have to do something. So they to invite Brazil to the parallelograms, which is successful, and they get this yellow Chilean country here to join the fascists. Since Brazil is in the parallelograms, then they cannot stop them when Brazil decides to invade this dark red country. To expand a bit. Yeah, they're becoming pretty powerful. See this country becoming West Mexico now, and they're not terrorists. Yeah, we see this country still turning communist, red Chileans. Farmers Union is of course going to still be communist. Poland, Norway is going to still build some socialists, and with Finland, we already talked. But now let's take a look at Russia, which has turned weak once again, and they're unstable once again. Even though their economy is pretty good, population is still a bit. And we see in Crimea this happening. A gold country will rebel. Yeah, there's also the organization the Dutch, which is doing all of this fascist defeating stuff. Actually, do see here that Ukraine's doing pretty good, but then Russia decides to fight back. And their military is still pretty good, so they push them back, and the rebellion is almost completely defeated until discovered that Russia may have done some bad stuff to invade this country. And the Dutch do not like that since they're democratic and they never turn fascist. Well, probably flow democracy though, not full democracy. Still more democratic than countries like Gold Ethiopia. Gold Ethiopia in episode like 60. Not Gold Ethiopia in the current week's episode. Yeah, what you're going to see it as. Meanwhile, the Romans will see this land because they do not really want it, and that's actually a good thing. Yeah, the Yellow's country is going to be very happy and they will join the squares in exchange. So yeah, they gained an ally. And also Green France and Catalonia joining in because of the Dutch. And yeah, the squares are actually pretty formidable force. Going to see that Russia. Yeah, let's see Farmers Union is going to invade them. And they didn't expect them. Then what? Poland starts an invasion. How the roles have reversed. See, actually, Estonia doing their own campaign. Join the OS, I think it's called. We actually see Finland starting their invasion. And yeah, not only that, because we're going to see the democratic Caucasian country and the Caucasian joining in to defeat Russia. And yeah, the Green Team is actually going to try to supply their ex-ally, their former ally, and they do it because the Pink Team supports them. So yeah, Russia is actually getting help. The first days of the coalition, see the Black Caucasians doing a pretty, yeah, they weren't ready for this. This reason they still lose a lot of stuff. And we see the Crimeans actually trying to do something, but they're losing pretty bad now that the Russians focusing on them. They actually managed to stop Poland here in the north, but north here where we see this pretty okay offensive happening. Yeah, we see that Farmers is still winning against Russia because they're getting Dutch support since now they officially joined the war. India, most of the population isn't happy of the war crimes and uh-oh, another Ukrainian country has appeared. We actually see them doing pretty good. And basically cut Russian supplies in half, which leads to Crimean rebellion winning a major battle. And with Caucasian help, they're now changing the rules of the war. Actually see Poland winning here, this battle, which keeps weakening the Russians that lose another battle against the Estonians. And they go on and win against and lose against the Finnish. Now we see another old country coming back. Oh yeah, the Red Archangel's country is back. And they're actually doing pretty good. And this is in an area that the Russians did not expect. Yeah, it's going badly. You want the green team support, which cannot join directly the war because they're in the parallel realms, and that will start a major world war, which the world isn't ready for yet. Ready for still destroying the Russians though. Is this rebellion still winning? The Caucasians, they managed to cut off this Ukrainian area, which mostly falls over to gold Ukraine. And yeah, see also this offensive happen. Despite the Russians being massive, Turtle aren't that much stable. People also have lost faith into the government, and see from Siberia wants to get more land. And since it's like there's nothing in the military over there, they managed to win a pretty big piece of Russia. And then they leave. Yeah, that's it. They invade, leave because they don't have any more money. This weakens further Russia. So we also see this blue country deciding to join in to grow more Russian land. See this gold team helped by China secretly. So yeah, basically the circle team joining the coalition. CC from Siberia getting some land even though they exited the war. Yeah, we can see that this is what is happening.